Welcome, everybody. So we move into Run It Back episode number 9. And today we're talking about Willamette versus Pacific. These two teams played twice this year, and we're running it back with a hypothetical third rematch. We're super fortunate to have my buddy Chris Horton join us, who is an assistant coach with the Willamette Bearcats. And really appreciate you jumping on. Good to see you. How are you, sir?
I am great. Good to see you as well. Bright and early for me on the West Coast. You know,
I know,
my
Chris.
players do early morning runs. I do some early morning streaming, so it's all good. We're ready.
It's all good. You're keeping the mind in shape, as we say. Let me
Absolutely.
give you a little bit of a premise for those of you who have never tuned into a Run It Back, catching the stream later, or the next thing that Run It Back is going to do is I'm actually going to move all of the audio into a podcast as well. So when we cover some video, I'll be a little bit more descriptive of the video, just talking through it. So don't hate me if I sound redundant in terms of what we're looking at, etc. But I mean, the premise of Run It Back is pretty simple. We take teams that played each other in the previous season and we run it back, so to speak. So we use their previous matchups as a sample size to say, like, hey, what worked, what didn't work, what are we going to do moving forward if we were to play again? So as I said, we're doing Willamette versus Pacific today. Both teams are in the Northwestern Conference. They're D3 schools. They played twice this season. Willamette actually ended up losing both. The first game was January 24th at Pacific Stoller Center. Willamette lost 124 to 113. And then game number 2 was at Cone Fieldhouse, Chris's home. And that was on February 22nd, which was a closer game, which Willamette lost 99 to 91. Thought they were in the game for quite a long period of this game. In fact, it was even tied with 8 minutes left off of one of DJ's layups in transition. And then just sort of like what's of note from the two games. There was a 17-1 start in the first game for Pacific, which was not a good look, but Chris's Bearcats, scrapped and stayed in it. In game number 1, the main ball handlers for the Bearcats combined for 9 turnovers. And in game number 1, the Bearcats shot the ball really well, in my opinion, 53% from the field, 44% from the three, just underneath. And I mean, obviously the Bearcats are very capable of putting up their own runs because they had a 14-5 in the second half of the first game. So I'm going to start here just before we get into discussion, Chris. I always start with a little bit of a poll. So I'm going to launch the poll, and it's just sort of the consensus of the coaches in the room of can Willamette beat Pacific if we are to have a run it back type deal. And it looks like we got a couple unsure's and a couple yeses, and we'll give it another second here just for everybody to answer. It looks like it's a definite yes. 63% of the room is saying it can be done. So let's talk a little bit about how, Chris. I think
I appreciate the respect on that poll. No no's. Even after Menelik is talking about 17-1 runs and the difficulties, I appreciate it.
Hey, there's lots of support out here. So Chris, so you can get a bit of a background with the Rising Coaches Network. I post the video of your previous games and the box scores so that guys can, and not everybody obviously always has time to, but so the guys can have a little bit of time to get through the film, take a look at the box, sort of see where we stand and get a viewpoint of where things are. So let's focus here to start from game 1 to game 2. What sorts of things are you preparing for? Did you see that you want to change? And what are you implementing if you are changing stuff?
I think Pacific does a great job of really dictating flow of game, and they do that with full court pressure. So for us, it always starts there whenever we play them. How are we going to handle their pressure? How are we going to break it for easy baskets? And over the course of the season, they did a good job of evolving what that pressure looked like. So the pressure that they played with in game 1 was not necessarily what they used in game 2. So the foundation of the game plan is what are we going to do against these certain looks? Based on the scouting that we did for that game, going into the second game, we learned that if they're on the ball, like on the inbounder, we're probably going to get a man run and jump or some type of diamond. And against that, we wanted to use our diamond press break. If they're off the ball, they're probably in a 2-2-1. And we wanted to use what we call our 12 press break. So it starts there. And then obviously defensively, what do you say? We gave up 198,000 points in the first game.
Yeah.
So
it was in that vicinity.
Yeah, exactly. It felt like it. Oh my goodness. So we needed to make some adjustments there. So you see us play some zone in the second game with some tweaks to just the base version of the zone that we normally play. And then the first one, what stood out the most, I think, was just we weren't in shape. We weren't ready to handle that pace. They play at amazing pace, definitely the best in our league, and probably top 10 in the country in pace. And our guys were dying out there. And we looked at it on film, and like I made some jokes about it to our guys, like, hey, Kenny, like we're 3 minutes into the game. You're about to die right now. Are you okay? So I did a lot in terms of player development and training while we were tired to lead us up to that game. So we stood a chance to get up and down.
So what is, like, there's so many things in there. I mean, you hit the nail on the head, obviously, which is why you're in the spot you're in, but there's so many things in there that I want to cover and talk about today. Let's start with the player development in a short period of time. How are you working on your guys, VO2 max, getting them in shape, being able to play while they're tired? What kinds of things are you doing when you're running it back? And if we were moving into a third hypothetical game, what would you do continually, like even more so, to develop them between now and then?
Right. So I take notes during our games, not because I'm creative or smart, but because I have an awful memory. So during the first game, I was taking notes about just how out of shape we were, and I was having ideas then about, okay, this is what we have to do to train going into round 2. So we run 16, so sideline to sideline 16 times.
Yeah.
We run those in like 55 seconds. So we would run in our training. I would have them run 16s before we did anything. So we're running 16s, and then I might have one of my ball handlers, who you said had 9 turnovers in the first game. Hey, we're gonna run 2 guys at you right now. Can you break this pressure? And that's how we trained it. Like everything that we did started with 16s. Did they hate me for a little bit? Yeah.
Well, I hate you for a little bit, and I'm an old fat guy, but part of my soul just shuddered thinking about like the 16s and the sideline to sideline, all of it. So
yes, I mean, sometimes I felt bad we ran a 12 instead of a 16, but yeah, it was a lot of running. It was a tough couple weeks.
So while you're gearing up for the games, are you implementing punishment running in between drills as well? So, or like, are you doing stuff like, hey, if you guys
say that again? Yep.
Sorry, Ahmed, I'm gonna mute you there. Or if you guys aren't able to complete this, or if your team loses in this drill or whatever, we're right back on the line. Are you adding those kinds of things in, or is it just a very scripted, like, hey, we got 5 of these before we start type deal? Like, what's the psychology behind it for you?
So in the team practice, the conditioning didn't change so much. We still do running for punishment for losing a drill, on the line, down and back, that type of thing. That was, the 16s were more in my skill development. So I might have like a group of 3 or 4,
right?
And that's where we're getting most of the running.
So in an ideal world, for us, so like my assistant coach, Mike Adamo, is actually on the call, but like I'm big on this. A lot of guys criticize me for it or whatever, but I do quite a bit less in terms of skill development in practice, and I want to do it outside. So you guys obviously have the time and the gym space to be able to, hey, Chris, group 3, group 4, take them in type there. So next question, moving on a little bit, is you were able to, as you said, identify when the run and jump is coming or when the diamond press is coming type deal. How are you working with your guards? Kenny and Daniel are the main ones, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, that are going to be your guys that, they need a bit of development going on in terms of recognize what's going on. Are you doing film? Are you talking to them? Are you like really walking them through it? And how is your scout team helping them to prepare for the kind of pressure that Pacific is going to implement?
Love that question. So a lot of all of those things. So I think and those are freshman guards, those two that you mentioned, and our team was super young. So it's not just about them; it's about getting everyone on the same page, especially for freshman guards who aren't necessarily, Chris Paul floor general moving people around.
Right.
So film definitely first, but then just the on the court piece, as in team practice, but also in our small group workouts. Hey, this is what this is going to look like. This is what the inbounder's body position is going to be. And then, this is what's going to happen on the first pass. Can we consistently recognize this? Can we recognize this when we're tired? Most importantly, when we're tired. So a bit of film on the court stuff. That group particularly likes to walk through things on the court. I've been with older groups who can sit down and just be off their feet and, okay, this is what they're going to do, and just see it on film, and now in the game they know it. But we have a younger group, so that's part of the teaching that you go through.
It's amazing. I love that. The question that I have, and just full disclosure for everybody who's listening or watching at a later time, Chris was kind enough to share his scout for the second game with me, and just confidentiality. Obviously, I won't go through a lot of that, but one big thing that I noticed in there was that basically, one of the keys to the game is that this team is going to play with pace. That they're going to try and speed you up, both defensively and offensively. So offensively, they're speeding you up, and you guys are starting to get through the press or the full court man, depending on what it is. And you're arriving in the front court, later than you want to be. You're not really running your stuff the way that you would be in other games. So how do you focus on getting a good shot? And I have a little bit of film here. Maybe you could, I'll go through it after you answer type deal. But how do you differentiate between a good shot, bad shot when you're sped up and arriving in the front court for you guys? Are you identifying who you want to take it, or are you identifying what it is that is a good shot, etc.?
Ooh, I like that a lot. Going into that, we wanted to play. We didn't mind playing with pace offensively. I think we struggled at points to score in the half court during the season. So we didn't mind being sped up, and we thought we could get some good shots. I think you referenced, 50+%, 40+% in round one.
Yeah.
So we were fine with that. And if we score 113 points like we did in round one, we'd be fine with that also. So the shot selection for us wasn't so much of an issue. The tired mistakes were issues for us. So, lazy passes, miscommunications because we're tired. Am I taking this shot? Is this shot an easy way out, or can I get a better one? And that's hard to quantify or qualify, but we had some clips of those from round one that we showed going into round two. And that's what you're trying to prevent. And you see those things, live in game, and how quickly can you, redirect, we can get a better one, we can get a one more, attack that closeout, don't settle, those types of things.
Sure. So let me share real quick. Let's sort of hear your point of view on a couple that I just sort of picked up on. I think they're all from the second game. They're all from the second half in the second game, and they're all in transition, sort of like I said, you guys tied it up with 8 minutes left, and then you were playing very close the rest of the way. Are we good with the size here, everybody? Give me a thumbs up if yeah. So here's the first one. This is the layup to tie it after a great long outlet. I'm pretty sure you're okay with this one overall for you guys. Thoughts on it? This is just a long outlet and Plummer going to the bucket. I'm pretty sure you're good with something like that.
Absolutely.
Versus the run and jump here. So it's coming at half court.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So here he's coming in from behind. And we got who's shooting that? Is that Cade? Do I have that name?
It's a little choppy for me. I can't see it, but Cade would be 50 if 50 shot it.
Yeah. So it looks like 50. So we got a run and jump in the wide right slot, let's say, and then we got one of your bigger guys lifting straight up slot. Look at it. There's 20 left on the shot clock. Decent 3-point shooter. How How do you feel about this with the rear contest?
I love it. I love it. I love the confidence to shoot it. We're going to play at that pace. We trust Cade to make those shots.
Yeah.
So I love it, and especially for Cade. So backstory on that is freshman for us. Went through a little bit of a shooting slump in the middle of the season. He sat down with our head coach. They worked on, their feet and balance. And towards the end of the season, he played with, way more confidence than he had for, the beginning of the season. So, I live with that shot from him. JB, a couple of guys that I'll live with that shot from.
Amazing. Love it. So my next question about this particular clip is, how many guys are you sending into the glass offensively when you know that you're getting sped up a little bit? I mean, so this shot's going up at 17. Are you trying to create the extra possessions there, or what's sort of your philosophy as a team on it?
So we're sending 2, and I think, this is, credit to Pacific, the unseen effects of pressure, right? We know turnovers and all these types of things, but pressure breaks down your little things. So, when we should be sending 3 to the glass, there are only 2 here. That's an effect of pressure. Like, oh man, damn, I gotta go O-board and then try to get back on defense. So that's a credit to them. But yeah, I would love to hit the glass harder, especially as we're getting trapped out here, and we should have some numbers advantages down low.
Next one we got, I believe, ends up with Justice shooting a corner 3. Let me just watch it here. So the pressure's coming. You got a ball to a guard, and now you're in the front court with about 22. And what do we got here? Yeah, we got an in and then a back out. So we're posting the ball and then throwing it back out, creating the long closeout. Early shot again. Kind of contested. Justice, pretty good 3-point shooter. How do we feel about a shot like this at this point in the game? And again, what are your teaching points on it? Are you going to live and die by the results of it and just be okay with it? Or are you going to try and get it in the paint, et cetera? Where's your mindset on it?
I like the inside out to get it. I don't know what Justice was shooting at this moment in time, but the thing about Justice is he doesn't care what he's shooting. So that's going up. That is absolutely going up. And again, I don't have a problem with it. The alternative for Justice in that situation, do we make a 1 more? And then we're kind of playing, Davis Holly's, with DJ at the top of the key, we lose an advantage. And then we're in the half court. I don't love it. So I don't have a problem with that from him either.
Awesome. And last one is DJ. And what do we got here? Let's take a look at it. Give me 1 second. So not a whole lot of pressure, but we're pretty quick. And he tries the up and under as he's going to the basket. He tries the overhead rip through, I should say, really. So, I mean, for the people listening later on, the situation's 92-84. It's a minute 47 left on the game. We're about 26 on the shot clock. And he's attacking the paint for sure. I think he's kind of going 1-on-2 at this point. And if you look at the video, it looks like we got second side or 1 more is going on. What would you say teaching wise, or what would you say acceptance wise of something like this at this point in the game?
Oh man, I wish DJ was here. I would let DJ answer that question. Man, I love DJ. To DJ's credit, in those situations in the past, he has been able to get quick scores to keep us in games.
Right.
That shot there, I don't love. He did his job. He got to the rim. He drew. They shouldn't have helped in that situation. Why do you help? Why are you concerned about that layup? So that's perfect kick opportunity for him. But we missed it, and that happens sometimes.
That happens for sure. There's times where you got to look at some of those and you're just like, man, on film it looks like the decision is so easy, but in the heat of the moment, you're in the last couple minutes of the game, you're gonna take it strong. And for everybody else on the call, I actually got down to one of Chris's games this past year, so I met a lot of the guys, and meeting Daniel, meeting DJ, for sure he's going to the rack on that. That's
absolutely.
He's an aggressive guy. He's going to get to the rim and do what he does. And as a coach, you take what you get with that for sure.
Yeah, and he's probably our most competitive guy, the guy that works the hardest. And that happens for him, and that's all a part of. Again, he's a freshman. That's a part of his growth process. Like if you watch, young guys in the league that are great. Like if you watch Giannis, he has those moments at the end of games where like, I'm great. I worked for this. I am going to go score now. Now, does that always work? No. Sometimes they collapse on him, and his teammates are in the corner with their hands up, like, hey, guy, I'm here.
I'm here.
But that's kind of what you get when you have great players that work hard and believe in themselves. That happens sometimes. So the growth for DJ this year, hopefully he makes that kick, and we all celebrate together. And he's playing his 3 guitar, and everybody's happy.
I love how diplomatic and correct your answer is, because I know as a coach with my guys, there's points in the game where I'm sitting there like, like move the ball, please. But like we said, we take what we get sometimes with it for sure.
Yeah. Hey, how I told you I'll take notes during the games. Sometimes the notes are like WTF with a time next to it. Like, what were we doing? I don't understand. So yeah, I'm with you. It happens
for sure. So like if we were going to play this imaginary rematch again, taking a look at the shot selection that you got, would you show them clips and still go through and be like, maybe also consider this? Would you show them clips and be like, hey, this has got to move? Or would you just kind of, again, as we talked about, continue to accept what you get out of it? Like, what's your approach with the guys individually in terms of the teaching points? I mean, it's already happened. Now let's talk about the future type deal.
Definitely with you. We have to continue to define what good shots are, what great shots are, and when we can do better. So definitely. And, like I've said this a couple times, but young group, that's kind of the growing pains that you have with that group. And it helps for them to see it after. It helps for them, during games. Hey, do you remember such and such situation? Hey, we could have kicked that. Hey, you drew 2. That means we have someone open, right? So whether we're getting into the paint and pivoting, out of something so we can kick, or, gnashing, through the paint, once you draw, multiple bodies, we can find better.
That's interesting. You guys call it gnashing as well. I love it.
Oh yeah. Yeah, man. He's not just a Canadian legend. He's a legend for all of us.
This is true. This is definitely true. So elaborating on teaching points, I want to move into one other thing that I think you guys struggled with, as an outsider looking in or whatever, in sort of both of these games. The turnovers were an issue. And, full credit to Pacific, like we discussed before. They speed you up. They're coming with the run and jump. They're coming with the diamond. Even in the half court, they're pretty aggressive sometimes. So I know as a coach personally, I struggle with the balance between giving too much feedback to somebody and then mentally turning off versus not giving enough feedback or any feedback at all and them continuing to make the same mistakes. So discuss a little bit, how do you walk that fine line specifically with turnovers? And here's the $1 million question. How do you get your guys to commit less turnovers?
Oh my goodness.
Fewer turnovers, excuse me. My mother, who will watch it at a later time, will be like, hey man, grammar, like let's
yeah. Oh man. I mean, I wish I had an easy answer for fewer turnovers. I wish, but I don't. I think for us, what the pressure does to us, you see turnovers. What we talked about as a coaching staff all season when we face pressure like this is it's not necessarily the scheme or the technique. It's the accumulation of decisions, especially for young guards and a young group. The accumulation of decisions is really the challenge, because they all have the ability to pass out of a trap or to beat one guy one-on-one. They all have that ability. But over the course of 40 minutes and 100 possessions of this pressure, do you have the ability to handle the accumulation of decisions? I coached at Dean College last year, and we played a similar style team where you're just getting pressure all the time. our leading scorer that game had 40. We had a couple guys that had like 25. We end up winning the game. The best player on our team was our point guard who was throwing our inbounds passes. He played like 35 minutes and had 0 turnovers and 0 points. He had 0 points, and he was our best player because he was able to handle, I can inbound this 97 times this game, get the ball back, be able to dribble, make decisions, and set people up without having turnovers. And that player was a fifth-year senior. And that's just kind of the difference between the growth, growth over 5 years versus growth over, at that point, we had him for 5 months.
Right.
So I think that's the biggest piece of it, is just the accumulation of decisions. And then to your other point about how you address those things, certain guys are different. So like during a game, I'll go sit with a player. Some players can recall vividly like what just happened, and I can walk through it with them. Hey, when this happens, you can X, Y, Z.
Right.
Others don't get it or can't handle, hey, you remember when you turned the ball over a second ago? That might not be the best approach for them. So you have to find what the best approach is for them. So sometimes I'll frame it as, hey, when this happens in the future, acting like it never happened. But when this happens in the future, this is what you can do. Hey, try this. And we also have some guys that I love to give them confidence with technique that we've worked on and that they feel comfortable with. So, hey, man, you remember in our indie skill work when we worked on, a bump and a retreat? Oh, yeah, coach, I'm good at that. Yeah, okay. So next time, give me a bump and a retreat. So it's just different ways to reach different guys, especially in the middle of games during that pace when they're, panting. How do we reach them?
So I like the idea of language specific to you guys. And like when I came down, and I've told you, personally or whatever, but like I have a lot of respect for Kip, your head coach, because
Oh yeah,
Kip was awesome to me. He didn't know me from a hole in the wall and was just like, hey, come into like our halftime, come in and talk about our scout before. And, so much credit to him. Big shout out to Kip Ione down there. But
absolutely,
one of the things that I really noticed and stole from you guys, and my assistant, like I mentioned, is on the call or whatever, but like on your scouts, you use very particular language, and I'm sure a lot of other coaches do. But like being able to communicate with you guys in specific, succinct language that creates the ability, like you said, different people have different working memory capacity. So it creates the idea of like, oh yeah, I do remember that now because it's a very specific action that we're talking about, or a very specific way that we were supposed to play that's directly from the scout. So everybody has temporary memory lapses. But do you not find that there are some guys on your team that even when you're using that specific language will mentally turn off a bit in terms of, coach, stop giving me so much feedback, I don't want to hear it? And if you do, what do you do with those guys? Because as we progress up the ladder in terms of the skill set of the guys that we're coaching, better players want less feedback. They want to be able to correct themselves.
Yeah, absolutely. So to a couple of those points, I think the language piece is huge, not only for our program, but, for all these different programs. But Kip is great with that and building language that is succinct, like you said. And he is awesome because he is a leader with no ego, and he is super flexible. So he gives our players input on that language as well. So, Kip and I both love football. So like for one of our schemes, we were talking about free safeties and strong safeties. And DJ, your boy, was like, can't we just say like ball and back? Like, why would we? And we're like, yeah, man, that's a great idea. We overcomplicated that. That was unnecessary.
Right.
So that credit for that goes to Kip for, having the language and being flexible with it. And then as far as the capacity to handle some of this feedback, I think situation matters. So we were like, near the end of the season, it's kind of a rough season. And I felt like some of my players were kind of just floating mentally. So during practice one day, I approached one of my players. We were like shooting free throws or doing something where I could get to him individually while people were working. It's like, hey man, is it okay if I still coach you? And
Fair.
he like
Like
looked,
I've literally asked that question. Like, is it all right?
yeah,
Like,
yeah,
like, what am I here for? Is it
uh-huh,
still okay for me to be here for that? Like,
yeah. And he like looked at me and he was like, yeah. And you could tell he's like, why did you ask? I was like, okay, I was just want to check in. It seems like you're kind of floating, but I'm here for you. So if I still have your permission to coach you, that's what I'm here for. He said, yeah. And then that helped us get through the next 2 weeks of the season where he was more locked in. In a game, when emotions are different and things are happening more quickly, it's more difficult. So I'm still gonna, go move and sit on the bench with you wherever you are. Some people will give you eye contact and it's great and they're locked in. Some people are zoned out, seemingly. But I think it's part of my job to give them the credit or the leeway to think that they're paying attention, even if they're not necessarily looking at me or don't seem with body language to be paying attention. And I still have to give information in the best way that I can to reach each of those people.
yeah, like I still have to coach is the comment that I always make. And I got a lot of respect for you and your whole staff because, we were sort of in a similar situation up here at Fleming this past year. Like I took over halfway through the year, as you know, and
Yeah.
it wasn't the best of circumstances that I took over under type deal. And we were winless when I took over. And so we had 10 left. And, I just kept stressing to my guys like, hey, there's 400 minutes of basketball left. And my commitment to you is that regardless of the outcome, I'm going to coach you for 400 minutes of basketball. So don't be upset at me if we're losing a game and I'm still coaching you hard. Or don't be upset at me if you want to turn off and I won't let you type deal, because this is actually what I'm here for at this point. And, watching obviously more of your film in preparation for this, but like having seen you guys play, met your guys, been down there or whatever, I can tell that you guys were able to reach your guys so that they were still able to compete all the way through. I mean, this second Pacific game is your last game of the season, really, right?
Yeah.
And it's like, well, I mean, not the results you want outcome wise,
Right.
but 40 minutes of basketball, you guys played 40 minutes of basketball. You were very much in this game in the last 2 minutes, so to speak. So it's like, that's a tip of the hat, a credit to your staff, Kip, all of you guys, just like you've managed to keep your guys mentally involved and still competing even when it doesn't matter anymore. And that is a huge success, because to me, it does still matter because it's a direct reflection of the character of the person. Like, can you lose and still be mentally involved type deal? Can you lose and still not lose self-worth or self-credit, et cetera, like from that? I want to touch on something Greg said real quick, just about the feedback piece. He put it in the chat. So Greg, just so you know, Chris is a coach up here in Canada. He coaches in my league. He just says he gives less feedback and likes to ask more questions. So instead of "you should have done," it's more of a "so what were you thinking? Walk me through why you made that decision." And then
Absolutely.
follow up with, "Now it's okay. What are some other options available to you that you could see," so that they're teaching themselves, so to speak.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. We use that all the time. I do use that in games. Sorry if I didn't frame it that way. But yeah, especially it's usually you see coaches use that to get the player to walk through an answer. Sometimes for me, like with new players or with a new group, like I actually really want to know, like, what were you thinking? And not necessarily in a negative way, but like, what are you seeing? So it helps me, build with you. Okay, so when he drives in this situation, his eyes tend to be here. So now I take that and, that'll be a note. How can I get his eyes to see this instead? So yeah, I love that. I try to ask as many questions as I can. And also to that point, I think, we try to do some innovative things in practice as well. So like for the walk me through and what were you seeing type things, We use Snapchat spectacles. So these Snapchat, they look like sunglasses, and they film your line of vision. So we use that for some of our decision-making training, where we put them in 2-on-1 situations or ball screen situations to see where their eyes are. So we kind of, try to get some of that information that way as well. Because, what you'll see also is I love asking the questions. Sometimes the answers that you get are the answers that they know you want to hear.
Oh yeah.
Or they just don't have an accurate, memory of what happened. But yeah, I love the questions, because I will sit there and really try to learn, and see. I'll scratch my head over some of it.
So walk me through those Snapchat spectacles a little bit. Like, so that gives you a recording of everything they're looking at from their vantage point or whatever. So
yes,
you guys can then, like, so I'm buying these. That's the first thing I'm saying.
Yeah.
Like
they're amazing. I might have some. Yeah, so I have some sunglasses here. I'll demonstrate. These aren't them, so they'll be on like sunglasses like this.
Look at this guy looking cool on the video.
Hey, never. So, and then you just press a button here, and it'll start filming, right? And then you'll go and do whatever you want, and then you just click the button, and it'll stop. And all of that you can just like upload to a cloud, and then so our coaches will have it after a practice.
Right.
And we'll go through and look at it, and then it's great individually to sit with a guy and be like, hey, so this is this situation. Now let's walk through it. And that's another great opportunity to ask questions. What are you reading here? What's the progression of your read 1 to 2? That type of thing. But yeah, amazing thing. Again, Kip Ione, one of the best doing it, and always loves to innovate. Nothing is going to, this is how we do it. Like, why don't you figure it out? No, he's always trying to innovate and come up with new ideas.
Chris, that might be the best idea that's happened on Run It Back so far. So like a bunch of coaches just messaged me like, we need those. What's going on? Let's get that going type deal. So like for us, we often try to teach, what your lines of sight should be. Like, let's say you're teaching a ball screen, like what are your progressions, right? Like, are you looking at, walk me through in your mind what you're looking at. Are you looking at your man first and then the screen defender? Like what's going on? Are you reading the guy in the hole, or are you reading the high tag? Like, where are you looking? To be able to actually visually see what they're looking at must be great. I'm wondering, do you put them through drills full speed while they're wearing something like that? Or wow, that's awesome.
Yeah, and I like the concern for me when I first saw it, it's like, okay, we're gonna put them through at full speed, but what if you get hit in the face? Like, you go to the worst case scenario. But it hadn't happened. But we, like you said, we put them in a bunch of ball screens. Was a big one for us this year. Let's put them in a bunch of ball screen stuff to see what they're reading. A lot of our offense is, how do we draw, a second player, a second defender, and what does that look like? Can we make the right, score kick decisions from there? So yeah, I mean, I was blown away when I got here. I was like, wait, we do what? Huh? Oh, I like this. So yeah.
Very nice. I like it a lot. I definitely want to spend some time on your defense, because I think you guys run a very unique 3-2. But before we get there, I want to talk just a little bit about the fouling situation in the second game for you guys. You ended up having 25 fouls in the second game, and you had 2 guys fouling out. Yeah, I know. So like, when I took over, when I took over Fleming this year, most of our stats became positive relative to the first half. We got a little munchkin jumping in here, so don't mind it here. But when I took over, most of our stats, like our scoring went up 5 points a game. Our points per game allowed went down by 5 per game. But one of the things that was negative for us was our fouling went up. So I'm actually very personally interested in, what kind of feedback are you giving to your guys about the fouling? Is it just too much reaching and simple stuff because you're tired? Or is it out of position, not anticipating, not being able to be one step ahead type deal, in your opinion? What happened there?
Both. And if you have more options, probably those options would apply as well. Yeah. So it was a combination of things. And to your point about the fouling, like, I have my notes here in front of me. Right. I have I wrote awful fifth foul for one of our players. The next note was too many bad fouls down the stretch. So I'm with you. And when you get down the stretch and, that game against Pacific, a lot of that, again, is, stamina, accumulation of decisions. Can we move our feet? And we started that game in zone. So there's no reason for us to, be out here like crazy fouling that amount. So we ended up going man, and I think we just, we might have worn down. That's one of the byproducts of that.
So in that second game, I actually saw a large percentage of your second half being in zone. Am I just completely off base there comparative to I guess this is
you're good.
Natural segue to what I want to talk about, because I think you guys will run one of the more unique 3-2s that I've seen. I have some clips. Maybe you could just kind of walk us through some of the teaching points that you guys have. But one of the things that I think makes it unique, and I'm sorry, I got a little girl attacking my hand here. One of the things that I think makes it unique is the positioning of your top 2 wing players. So give me a thumbs up if you guys are good with the size of the video. Awesome. So, I mean, basically we're looking at here, Willamette being in a 3-2, and some of these clips, Chris, I'm sorry, they're not pretty. You guys gave up some slashes, etc.
I've seen some not pretty clips, so don't worry.
But like I said, one of the things that I think makes it unique is that you guys almost sort of like funnel at the top to the center of the floor. Am I correct in this? And what are sort of the teaching points? What's the why going on here?
Absolutely correct. So it's inspiration for the defenses. We took this from Nebraska Wesleyan, where they play this 3-2, and to the funnel that you're talking about, we talk about playing in U's. Okay. So that top guy is playing, open chested, straight at the ball. Those 2 wing guys are more closed chest. So if you would connect all of their chests, you should have a U there. Those 3 guys are making a U. So in the first matchup with Pacific, we like to play that middle guy kind of low and kind of dare you as a point guard to dribble up and have no pass possessions. Oh, you want to hoist from there? Go ahead. So which they did in the first game. I don't know if you remember, but so they came down, no dribble 3, good. No dribble 3, good. No dribble 3, good. So in this second one, we had to adjust that a little bit, and we adjusted in that first game also. But we turned what we call our 32 defense into a 33. So bring the middle guy out higher. We're still trying to keep our U's, but now the levels aren't necessarily the same. So like when we see a ball go to the corner also, you should see a U type there also. We should either trap it or we should be in another U as well.
So in this particular, sorry, Chris, go on. I apologize.
No problem. And then the next adjustment we made from like the base of that defense for this game is we were what I would call overreacting to the middle. So they would make a middle entry and we would have 10 eyes on it just looking at it, but they're moving. So what we wanted to do going into this game, and I don't know how well we executed it, if the ball goes into the middle, we were going to match up out of that. Right. So sometimes the ball would go into the middle, we'd match up out of that, their offense would saw, and then we'd be in man for the rest of the possession.
Awesome. So like I saw that, and I think I have a clip or 2 of that or whatever. What is the ultimate purpose of the U's? You talked about it, but like what type of teams would you play it against, and what's the outcome you're looking for in playing it?
So we played Nebraska Wesleyan this year. Great team, obviously won a national championship a couple of years ago. They have superior length to us. So what they're able to do is challenge all of the easy passes that you would have, right? Because of their length in these passing lanes on these wings. Are you trying to bounce it? What are you trying to do? And then on the air time of that pass, they're back in you with more length. So with less length, we're trying to use our speed to accomplish similar things and be in your initial passing lanes. And then we really would like to get the ball to a corner so we can trap you and then use our speed to run under some of these passes.
I like it. So Sean put something in the chat. Sean, feel free to jump in, talk about it a little bit if you want. Give me like I
Yes,
said, I think
please.
it's a unique defense. You don't see it used in Canada at all. And I like the angles. I'm wondering what the overall goal is for each time that you play it against different opponents, what you're trying to achieve. Chris touched on it a little bit. Give me some of your perspective, Sean.
Yeah, we played them in the first round of the NCAA tournament the year they won the national championship. And the length really bothers you because they take you out of the places that you play most naturally on the floor. They take the ball out of the top, they take it away from the wings, and they force you to play from that middle area. And at our level, there's not a lot of guys who are very comfortable not only scoring from that elbow, high post area and being able to and having the length to get to the bucket and finish, but also being able to facilitate out of that spot. And so what they do is they force you to, number one, you've got to hit shots, and they're 6'4" across the board. I mean, they have incredible length at our level. So you've got to be able to knock shots down from the corner, but you've also got to have one or two guys that are comfortable being playmakers. And that's what we struggled with. You know, we hung with them for a little while, but they suffocate you defensively. And then on the offensive end, they run their stuff as well as anybody in the country. Just great play.
Absolutely.
And they force you to play extremely efficient. Sometimes that's tough to do at our level.
Sorry, Sean, where are you at?
Sorry, I'm at Maryville College in East Tennessee, Division III, USA South.
Awesome. Appreciate you. So, Chris, walk me through this clip a little bit. Where's the breakdown in terms of what's happening here? I mean, you're in your 3-2. There's an entry to the elbow area, and then it creates a long close on the same side corner. So what's happened sort of in the back that creates that long closeout? What needed to be done differently?
So that ball goes to the middle. JB is one of our bottom two guys. He picks that up. So on this middle entry, we should be matching up. Right. So what could happen is DJ could bump down so Ben can make this long closeout. But right. Ben is not a guy that we want running from opposite block to corner to contain a ball. We don't want that. So what hurts us here is Justice, even though the ball – Justice is number 20, the wing guard closest to the bottom of the screen. When that ball goes middle, Justice feels like he's done his job because he's close to a guy he's matched up, but Justice doesn't have any vision of what's happening around him. Right. So that he would have had the easiest rotation if he had any vision of what's happening. So yeah, right there when you freeze it, Justice, he's not even looking at his guy. He's looking at the camera guy in the first row opposite baseline. And the player that they have butt naked open is their best player. Oh my God, he is their best player, and he's butt naked open. So this, as a coach,
this is maybe Daniel going to the block. You're saying, the person who ends up long closing it out, going to the elbow, person who's at the elbow going to Justice's man, and Justice should be able to bump down to this closeout, like an X out type close. You're saying?
Correct.
Awesome. So next one, and this is an interesting one because this is, in my opinion, just good talent walking up and hitting a 3 type deal. So we got basically just a walk up 3, and what do we do here in a scenario like this? So I mean, basically we come down, we flip the ball on the side of the floor, to the other side of the floor, and we got one of their best 3-point shooters just hitting a 25, 30-foot shot. What do we want to do better on something like this? Sorry, Chris.
Oh my God! This makes me so angry. Oh my God! So this is my favorite player in the league, by the way. This guy shooting the shot, Nick Drine. He's a freshman, so he's gonna try to torture us for the next 3 years. He's really good. I mean, he's really good. We know he will shoot that with range. And we, as a coach, you talk about things exhaustively, and then, that guy gets it in a close game. It was 75-75 at one point, right? And we lose him. Yeah. We lose him back-to-back times.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's just awareness,
It's just awareness. So, like, in an ideal world, you'd want that you to be – you talked about going from your 32 to your 33. You'd want that you to be even higher, that matchup.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, we're supposed to be high. Yeah, definitely.
What do we got here? We got a bad inbounds by you guys, unfortunately, but you managed to sprint back and create your formation pretty quick. And we got a little inside out twice happening. So we punch the ball we reverse it to the other side of the floor. We got to penetrate and a skip to the other side. And then it's one more and wide open look again. So in an ideal world, and I'll run that from the beginning without my description, how do we play this better? Like, how do we send a guy in what direction type deal? So, like, are we denying this pass, this punch right here?
I'm trying to see. It's a little choppy for me.
I'm
so
sorry.
I can't
Let me
quite
try
tell.
a full screen real quick, see if that helps out at all. So I don't know if that's better. Let's try it out. But here we come into the front court, and I'll pause it so you can get an idea. Here's your formation. And then here's the pass that I'm talking about. Just punching it in. And so now, like, they're deep paint at this point, and he puts it back out to the other side, and we get paint again off of this wing penetration. So what are the teaching points when you look at this?
Yeah, I'm a little behind, I think, with the video, but I'm trying to connect some pieces here.
I'm sorry, I don't know why it would.
No, you're good.
I'll try it one more time for you here. See if I
run it. So no, I saw the end of that play. I saw the paint touches. So Davis Holly's able to make this pass to Nick Dryan in the corner for a corner three.
Yeah, that's it.
So we work on this situation in practice all the time, where we go, excuse me, where we go offense on the wing like they have, offense in the corner like they have, and we will skip it from the opposite corner to the wing,
right,
and have a defender in help, whether we're in man or zone, and we'll play this 2-on-1 game all the time, because this kind of happens. Not only in man, but sometimes in our zone based on some rotations. We saw that this situation happened. So we drill this exact situation. So we want.
Sorry, Chris. On this long closeout right here, are you trying
Yeah.
to influence in a direction or another? Or like so the ball's gone into the post and then it's kicked back out to 5, who is Terrence Gilder, right? Yeah. And then he's able to basically attack middle right away. Is this, like, it looks like on the closeout, you are kind of angling towards sideline baseline, and then he gets middle. Is, when you're drilling, is this a point of emphasis for you? And if it is, like, what are you telling your guys?
So I'll start with this. So we have different type of closeouts. We have runoffs, which are your great shooters. Get out there, run them off the line, and we have short bets. Get out there, stop with some distance in front of you, protect, drive. Terrence Gilder for us is a short bet, so we shouldn't be running at him that hard anyway.
Right.
Yeah. So, and then at this point in the season, we were playing a lot of 30 or 32 zone and freeze. We're not necessarily forcing it to the sideline. We're just trying to stay in front of people, and freeze. That's our gap defense. So you're gonna have help all over the place.
Right.
So that wasn't a huge, as it relates to this play specifically. The shading it either way isn't the issue. It's that he ran at a non-shooter and allowed him to do exactly what he wants to do. And now we're playing in an unnecessary 2-on-1, where instead of closing out hard, we could have just basically turned around and looked at that man in his face and had a better result.
Awesome. Take care, Mandel. We'll see you later. I got 2 other ones that I want to run real quick. Here, I'll skip ahead a bit. So this is sort of like a floppy action in behind, right? So it's like when I look at your 3-2, one of the ways that I would look at beating it is getting guys in behind. And it looks like they move to that here. I believe at this point, after your first pass, you guys are matching up, if I'm not mistaken.
It's not moving for me, but if they threw it into middle, we should be matching up out of it.
I don't know why it's not streaming for you. I apologize. So I'll run it back one more.
No worries. It might be my internet here. So
basically, like, they're in a 1-4 pretty much, right?
Yeah.
Everybody's along the baseline. So do your principals sort of switch when they get in behind you? And then again, they punch the ball here. You're now matched up. What are you guys doing on this matchup? What are what are you guys doing sort of on the matchup? What are your teaching points once that happens?
So right here where it's frozen for me, the ball's in the post.
Yeah.
We're in a good situation here, and I love that you said, you know, the punch, because we cover punch all the time because people definitely do try to punch us.
Right.
But yeah, once that ball's in the post there, we're matched up. Everyone's with their man, and we're solid right now. But are they going to score on us again, Menelik?
No,
Is
actually,
this what
you
you're
guys,
torturing me with?
no, you get a great stop here. I think just like
Okay.
you said, you're good. So, you know, Daniel shows for a second, but like basically trying to go one-on-one, you get a block shot, baseline out of bounds, 4 on the shot clock. I'll take that all day long. So it looks like
Oh,
it worked for you,
absolutely.
even though they got in behind you. I'm
Oh
just
my
kind of
goodness.
curious, like when you step to your matchup, how do your tenants shift, so to speak? And you covered that a bit. Here's one more, and I think this is one where you get hurt a little bit. We're baseline out of bounds. They get the ball up top, and so here you are. Now you're set up the way you want to be set up, and on the nail pass, you guys go into man, and they clear out the one side for him to drive. Is this just he's got to be better and not get up and under type deal, because you're not really forcing to any sort of help at this point?
Correct. And
One more
that's,
time for you.
yeah, I couldn't really see the finish. So with him, we don't mind this matchup, Cade against Colin Rardon. We feel like Cade, our guy, has an advantage in terms of quickness and athleticism. With Colin, we know he wants to go right and spin back. I can't tell if that's what he does here. You said he up and unders.
Yeah, so he went left and spun back to his right, actually. So he went towards the
Oh, so
side.
he changed it up on us. So
Yeah,
that's a good move by him. He knows. He hears us yell spin every time he touches it. So he did it.
Nice.
So yeah, I mean, he might have just made an individual play there, but yeah, that's not a matchup that scares us, you know, on that catch. So I wish we would have held up a little bit better there.
Awesome. I love it. You know, end of the day, guys, I think Chris would, I mean, a lot of people said yes, but I think Chris convinces you that they got a pretty good handle on what they want to do. And if they were going to rematch, they would have a very good chance to put themselves in the win. For everybody who's rising coaches stuff, we're going to be respectful of both yours and Chris's time. I told them an hour to start type deal, so we're coming up right on that hour. If you want to jump off and head to Rising Coach's other call, please feel free to do so. But Chris, I just want to finish by saying, hey man, honestly, you continue to amaze me. Love talking hoops with you every time that we manage to do so. Keep doing great stuff, and I know the results are going to change this upcoming season. Everybody who's in Northwestern Conference, watch out for the Bearcats. They're coming next year. And a huge thanks for jumping on, because I know it's super early for you out there, and I really respect that you took the time to do that. And everybody else who's hopped on, thanks for supporting my creative venture. And jump in. Go ahead. What?
Hey, I appreciate the thanks. I appreciate you for allowing me to be on this platform with you. As you know, I love you, my guy. And I love what you're doing here, and the community that you're building around this platform, I think, is awesome, and it's something that we all need. So I appreciate you, sir.
Awesome. Thank you, sir. Always feel free in future if you ever want to jump in on Running Back. If there's somebody you want to see on Run It Back that maybe you want me to ask them the kind of questions that you're asking, maybe competitively that might help. Who knows?
Oh yeah. I got a list of guys.
Amazing. Appreciate all you guys. I'm going to stop the recording right there. Next week, we've got Coach Jamie Corals from Buffalo, and we're running it back in their conference playoff game, which was them against Miami of Ohio. So Jamie Corals will be joining us next week, Friday, same time, same bat time, same bat channel. So please feel free to jump in. Appreciate you guys. Thank you.
Thank you.